ring the ring finger and pinky aren't really used that much, and the ring finger has a decent size, it's of decent size that you can put an implant there.
Okay. Decent
So
size. Yeah, it was the magnet was the size of a grain of rice, right?
Right.
Right.
It's pretty small.
Pretty small. Yeah.
Yeah. I can barely pick up a staple with it.
Okay.
But it very easily picks up magnets.
All right, yeah, and then also tell us about some of the experience that when you first had the magnet in, some of the odd things that all of a sudden you felt walking around or in your daily life that you didn't realize before how much magnetism was around you.
Right. Yeah. The interesting thing is that I didn't really anticipate was you get an insight into where we hide electronic stuff out of sight. Like when I put my hand on a countertop, I can if there's if there's like in the store, if there's a light underneath it, I can feel the light. And anywhere where there's a power lots of power being pushed around, I can feel it, and I can also feel some security systems. So like I'll be going through the survey, and I'll feel the security system looking to see if I'm taking a book or whatnot.
Oh, okay. Sure.
And it's hard to describe the experiences because I don't know when I say them verbally, then I don't feel like they sound all that interesting. But,
well, yeah, I suppose because I mean we're talking about a sense that most people don't have. So
right, yeah,
it's hard to describe.
It is, right, it is certainly the sensory experience is certainly not as rich as like a real sense. So
okay.
this isn't a totally new sense. It's kind of piggybacking a limited sense onto another sense.
Okay.
All
right.
Because I feel it as a buzzing inside my finger is kind of the best way to describe it.
It's kind of a buzz, like feeling like a buzz. Okay, I know what you're saying.
Right. So I feel a buzz.
And you still now just to clarify, you still have the implant in your left-hand ring finger?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. And it's been there for how many years have you had it now?
Over 2 years.
And over 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And there haven't been any, say, side effects, biological side effects, infection type thing like that?
No. I have had no trouble with mine. The other people have copied it.
Yeah.
And some of those people have had problems.
A little bit of trouble. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason is that the guy who made the implant, he's very good, and so like we actually made a dozen of them, and then looked at them all under microscope to see which one had the most consistent casing, etc. And the fellow who put the implant in is also very good, and a lot of thought went into exactly how the implant would sit in the finger. So when you pick something up, there's a spot where you apply most of the force.
Yeah.
It's back from that and offset slightly. So it's not my main force grabbing portion of the
part of the finger. I got you.
And then it's also offset slightly from the bone. So if I do push directly on it, it will actually slide off to the side and won't get stuck between the bone and the object that I'm picking up.
Okay.
And some people have had problems where they're like opening a jar of pickles and the casing on the implant sheared, and neodymium will corrode.
Sure.
And so then then they have a big problem.
Yeah.
But because mine was built very well and I had someone put it in who was very good, I haven't had any problems.
Okay. Yeah. And we got a question from listeners tonight, and one person wants to know in what way has it like enhanced your perception of day-to-day life? Is there anything that you were able to take advantage of because you had this extra little perception of, magnetic-driven interfaces
Right.
or
So most
devices?
of the benefit comes from it's an interesting kind of philosophical experiment.
Okay.
For to so I consider the utility, as it being an aid and reflection about sensory experience, and I like thinking about sensory experiences, and so it alters my perception of the world slightly, and that helps me think about the world.
Okay.
But being able to manipulate that. In terms of
Real functional ability, it doesn't really change
in terms of real
much.
functional ability, every now and then I'll use it for something interesting, or something of quote utility.
Sure.
If you don't consider introspection and philosophy useful. It's like one time I have a pond with like a pump in it, and I was able to figure out that the pump was working, but it was broken, and it helped me diagnose what was wrong with the system because I could just feel the motor running without opening anything up.
Sure. Okay. Right.
And every now and then I'll use it for something like that, but
Most of the time, it's just the philosophical, sensory perception type of benefit
yeah.
that you get out of it. Okay. Yeah.
And it
Go ahead.
it exposes interesting things that I don't really think about. So there's all kinds of information flowing around us all the time that we're just
Not aware of.
that we just don't we're not aware of, and it's not surprising, but we don't think about it. So, like one of the experiences I had was I was cooking, and I grabbed the pan, and there was a very large magnetic field, oscillating magnetic field coming out of my frying pan, which is not some definitely I can feel static fields, but if it's oscillating, it's actually much more sensitive.
Okay.
And then I realized I'm cooking on an electric stove, I'm aware of the heat because I can feel the heat coming out of the stove, but never before had I stopped to think about there's also a lot of waste magnetic fields
big fields
coming out of the stove.
Right.
And
That kind of woke you up. It was interesting.
right, yeah, and I can intellectually be aware, I intellectually know that, oh yes, it's totally obvious,
Yep.
throwing that, you move electricity to something, you get a magnetic field out, but there's a big difference between being able to reason through something versus being able to feel it. It's kind of like, if you're trying to explain hearing or sight to someone who is deaf or blind.
Yeah,
you can
difficult.
explain, right? You can talk about how light works or how sound works. You can describe scenes, but that person is never going to really understand the subtlety of what it is to see something, because they can't directly experience it.
Yeah, I hear you there.
And so,
okay.
And so that's this is the utility in as a conscious individual, being able to sense a part of the world around me that I didn't sense before.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
And because when I was at the lab that was doing the cochlear implant research, I always found it very interesting to talk to the people who had the cochlear implants, because a number of them were born deaf, and then
They would. Then it's the first time they would hear sound.
right. And I always thought that was the most fascinating thing, to go through that process.
Yeah.
And so that's what drove me wanting to get the magnetic implant.
And the magnetic implant, right. Now, do you see, let's say, do you foresee anything else, any other type of experimentation? I mean, you've been involved with the cochlear implants and